Hello. Well, welcome back to my second video. I don't know if you can see my lab in the... I just said hello and she started looking around like, who's here? So I don't know if you actually saw Nova in the last video. So this is Nova, my service dog. She's going to be chewing on that. I don't know. It might be super annoying, but...
You say hi? Say hi?
To who? Nobody's here. This is my mom.
Hello.
Shannon. And I don't know if you can see either, but we've got another puppy right there, Tahoe. You don't have to show him. Only if you want to.
Do you want me to show him?
Yeah, show the puppy.
Everybody likes to see a puppy.
Tahoe! Say hi. Hi, Tahoe. You cute boy.
So she's training him for somebody else.
Yeah. So he's not mine, but he's very cute. So I thought I would have my mom come on because it would be fun to talk about some of our experiences with flying with a service dog. I'm not some sort of really seasoned traveler, but so Nova's flown to Florida twice. So I mean that's 4 flights, so there and back and there and back. She's flown to Seattle, which is 2 more flights, and then to California, so 2 more flights. So that's 8 flights.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's a decent amount, but not a ton. I feel like, I don't know. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to share some of the experiences we've had, because I feel like every time I've flown with her, it's been a little bit different. I don't know if 2 flights have ever been the same, and I thought I'd bring my mom on because she's been there for all of them but 2, and a couple of them she kind of had more of the weird experience than I did, because she was talking to the people at the gate where I was sitting with the dog or something. So just kind of some fun, strange experiences, and I hope somebody finds it helpful that kind of, if you're going to fly, or if you have flown and you haven't had these experiences, it's, helpful or entertaining at the very least.
Yeah. Something to laugh about, because we sure do.
We sure do, yeah. So Nova's very first flight was to Florida. It was almost 2 years ago, a year and a half. And that one I feel actually went pretty darn smoothly, the first 2.
It did. The only thing that happened was Erica had filled out the paperwork to take Nova, because we were flying on Delta Airlines.
Oh, because in case you didn't know, I'm sure everybody who's watching this does know, you do have to fill out paperwork for a service animal now. And it depends on the airline, how they want it. So just go to the airline's website, just Google, I don't know, American Airlines Service Animal, and they'll have directions for you on what forms you need to fill out and stuff. It's pretty straightforward.
And I think the forms are all the same. It's just the way they handle it is very different.
Yes.
So Erica had filled out the paperwork in plenty of time for our trip to Florida.
Yeah, months in advance. And submitted it months in advance. This was Delta.
Yeah, and we got to the airport to check in at the counter. We were checking our bags, and the person checking us in said they didn't have the paperwork for Nova.
No.
And Erica's like, oh, I turned it in. And Erica keeps copies of everything. She tries to be really, really careful with all of that. And the lady, it was actually kind of funny. The lady said, well, you didn't bring your dog in a stroller.
Yeah.
Your dog has been sitting next to you very quietly. And your dog has been looking at you the whole time. So she says, it's obvious your dog is a service dog. So she just cleared and, was fine with Nova. And then when we were in Florida, you got the all clear for the going home flight.
Yeah, so Delta, you submit the form. So when you book your flight, if you go onto, I think it's My Flight on Delta or something, you can go in and you add a request, and there's a service animal thing where you submit the forms. And they say they handle it via, so if you're flying the next day and you submit the form, the day before, they're theoretically supposed to process yours before they process mine. Even if I submitted it before you, but my flight is after yours. So I've flown Delta the most, and I don't think I've ever had it so that they've approved me before the first flight. So I think every time I've gone with Delta, I've gotten there and they haven't approved the paperwork yet, even though I've submitted it in plenty of time. It's never been an issue because I have the paperwork. Nova's well behaved, so it's been okay. It hasn't been a huge deal. But then every time like we fly to wherever we're going, and then while I'm on the trip, I get an email from Delta that's like, oh, we approved your service animal, and I'm like, well, thanks, I guess like half is better than none.
Did you get approved for our coming up trip?
Well, so then so if you saw my, only other video, we didn't end up going to Disney because of Hurricane Ian.
Our flight got canceled and our hotels got canceled.
Yeah, everything just was canceled.
Because we were supposed to arrive the day Ian hit.
Yeah. Yeah, so for that flight, I did actually get pre-approved, although it was a little bit of a nightmare because
it was an adventure.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else has had this happen. I submitted the forms. So it just was like the Department of Transportation forms. Like, they all look the same. So I submitted the form to Delta, and they got back to me within, like, a couple days where it was like, oh, you submitted the wrong form because we don't accept forms from outside organizations. And I was like, that's kind of weird because it didn't have any organization on it except for, like, the DOT. And so they gave me a link to the form they wanted. So I went to the link, and it was the exact same form. It just was in, like, Delta colors, basically. So I was like, whatever. So I filled it out, submitted it, and like a couple hours later, I got an email back from Delta saying that they had rejected it again because it was the wrong form because they didn't accept forms from outside organizations. And I was like, what are you talking about?
You told me to submit this
I was
form.
like, this is a form you told me to submit. So I went to the link that they sent me in that email, and it was the form that I had sent them the first time. So I was kind of like, well, what do you want from me? Mm-hmm. So you're supposed to just reply to the email with the form. So I just replied, and I attached the form I put on there originally, and I was like, hey, this is the form I submitted to you originally. If this isn't right, please, like, say exactly what it is that you want and, like, what exactly it is that, like, is wrong with this form, because the last form that you rejected was literally the form that, like, you told me to submit. Like, I just went to the link. And then they approved me, like, probably less than an hour after that. So I don't know if that was just, like, a fluke. Like, if somebody, like, whoever got it just, like, was, like, misunderstood, like, some regulation or something. I don't know. But she was approved for that flight. And then, that one was canceled. So I have submitted the forms because since it's a different confirmation number that we're flying under now, I had to resubmit the forms. And I did that, like, 2 days ago, I think. I don't remember. A couple days ago. I haven't heard back from them yet, but...
Oh, you haven't?
No.
And yeah, it was several days ago.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. Delta, it has been a little bit of pain. Like, at the airport, like, on the flight, it's been totally fine. I haven't had an issue. But, like, before getting there, it's been a little bit of a mess. While we're talking about paperwork, so I've flown Delta, Alaska, and Southwest. I was going to phrase say Frontier, but Southwest. So I've only done the 3 airlines. Delta, you like submit the forms on their website, and they're supposed to approve them. But like we said before, I haven't really had good luck with that. Alaska was kind of interesting, where I don't know if another airline does this. I feel like another airline would have to because of the service that they use. I don't remember what it was called, but like so with Alaska, you went onto. It was basically like a third-party service where you submitted your service dog information, and that company reviewed it, and then if they approved you, they gave you like a service dog ID number. And so from what I understand, if I ever fly with Alaska again, I just have to like kind of submit Nova's ID number, and then she just kind of gets approved, and the ID number lasts as long as her rabies vaccine lasts. So when her rabies vaccine expires, I think I'm going to have to, like, redo that. Which it wasn't very hard. They actually were super responsive and got back to me super fast. So, like, it wasn't...
And they didn't give you a bad time about it?
No, I didn't really have...
Didn't you still have to fill out the Department of Transportation form?
Yeah, you still have to fill out the form, but, like, with the ID number, I think it's just kind of, like, saved under that. So it just is, like, should all kind of be the same. But when we were flying, we flew Alaska and we flew to Seattle, and when we were flying back from Seattle, I don't know if this was like a Seattle airport thing or if it was Alaska Airlines, or I don't know, but it only happened in Seattle flying back. They wanted to like check the forms, and they had us go to like a special counter to have us like approved to make sure that she was like a service dog and that everything was in order, which it was, so it really wasn't a big deal. So even if you like submit the forms, make sure you still have a copy. I've always had like an electronic copy. When we flew Southwest, I did have a physical copy.
Because they required it.
They wanted a physical copy, but Alaska didn't say to have a physical copy, so when they asked for one, I just showed it to them on my phone, and it was fine. So then Southwest was, they like didn't have you So you didn't submit the form online. They told you to like print it out and take it with you. But then on your little like My Trip or whatever for Southwest on the flight, you just went in and requested like assistance or something like that. I don't remember what it exactly
I remember
was.
you had to put in there that you had a service dog.
I don't even remember if it
Because-
said it was a service dog specifically though.
Because we took both dogs with us when we went to California.
Yeah.
Because we were going to visit Tahoe's family. So we went together and we took both dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, so Southwest, you didn't submit the forms online, but there was something, I don't remember exactly what it was. There was something you did online that let them know that, like, you needed some sort of, like, assistance. And then when we got to the airport, they asked for the forms. And, that Southwest, like on the flight, the flight attendants were great.
Were
like,
amazing.
Would totally fly Southwest again, but kind of like getting there was, I would say, was the most difficult.
It was very difficult.
Of the most, like, of the...
They gave us the hardest time.
They did. And it's like the other vlogs and stuff that I've watched on YouTube of service dogs, everybody always recommends Southwest, so I was just kind of surprised that we had problems, and it was both ways that we kind of had a little bit of a hard time. Like, it wasn't bad, and, you know, I never cried.
It was
so.
it was mainly in Salt Lake.
It was mainly in Salt Lake.
Because when we came back from California,
That's true. We didn't have a problem in California.
Yeah, we didn't. But
So what happened in Salt Lake is that we showed up and you know, we went to like check in and like give them the forms
at the main desk.
Yeah. And they
Before we went to security.
Yeah. And so she took the forms and they like printed you out a boarding pass and they like circled that like the dog had been approved or
Right.
something.
Yeah. They had to show that the paperwork was in order. So it said something about, dog approved or service animal approved or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that was fine. And so we asked about pre-boarding because we always
went through
pre-board.
security, got to the gate. Oh yeah, we asked down there first, didn't we?
Yeah, we asked like about pre-boarding because I always pre-board. It just is easier if you have a service dog. I would recommend just pre-boarding. it's easier to get your dog settled. People aren't trying to pet your dog. I think it's easier for...
They're not stepping on your dog.
I think it's easier for you, the dog, the people around you, and the flight crew. I really do. I just think it's easier. So even if you like physically don't feel like your disability makes it so you need to pre-board, if you have a service dog, I really would just recommend just pre-boarding. So in Salt Lake with Southwest, we like go through security. We had our boarding passes printed out saying that the service dog was approved. She said that
because the lady at the desk said, I can't do pre-boarding for you because the people get mad up at the gate.
Yeah.
And she said to me, and I should have listened a little closer, but she said, when you go upstairs, ask the person that's the actual person at the gate, not at the counter at the gate,
right.
But at the gate.
Right. So we go through security, and security is actually like pretty easy. I haven't ever had an issue. I don't really know anybody who's had an issue with security either. Have you?
No.
Yeah. So we went through security. We got to the gate, and since we had two dogs, I was like, I'll sit here with the puppy because he's he was 6 months old, so he was good, but still Nova's 3, so it's just a lot
he's
easier.
Just a puppy.
Yeah, he's a puppy, so it's got like a sloppier heel.
But he's a very good puppy.
He's very good. So you went up to the gate.
So she was sitting, and I said, I'll go up and ask if we can pre-board. And I got up there, and the guy that was actually at the gate, where you check in and get on the plane, he was busy, and there were a bunch of people there. So I went to the people at the desk. And when I went up to the people at the desk, I asked if we could pre-board with the dogs, because with Southwest, since you don't have a seat assignment,
right.
Like in other airlines, since we had a seat assignment, when they would say we're going to pre-board, we would just walk up and pre-board. But with Southwest, since it's a little different with them, I went up and asked them about pre-boarding, and because we wanted to be sure that we could get a good seat with the dogs too. And the bulkhead seats are nice, but we can make, we've made other seats work just fine.
Yeah.
So I went up and asked about pre-boarding. I said, can we pre-board? It's just easier with the dogs. And there were two girls there, a nice one and a not as nice one. And the not as nice one said, we don't pre-board for dogs. We pre-board for people. And I said...
Which the more I think about that, the funnier it gets. Because it's like, well, if you have a service dog, you have to have a disability.
Yeah.
So...
And I said, well, we're pre-boarding early for my daughter.
Yeah.
And she said, does she have a disability? And I was like,
Yes.
yes, that's why we have the dog.
Yes.
And she was just really snotty about it. And she said, I said, we have two dogs. And she says, well, how big are the dogs? And I had Nova with me. So again, she's 3 and she is a smaller lab. Yeah. And I said, we have this dog and we have, a younger dog, a puppy. And she's like, we don't take dogs that are in training. And I said to her, when you have a service dog, your dog is always in training because the training never stops. You continually are training that dog.
Yeah, we had the blessing of his trainer to take him on the plane. She was like, "Yep, he's totally ready.
Right,
he's gonna be fine."
Yeah, the ladies that did all the training, we checked with her before we made any commitments to go, and the nicer girl, she just kind of printed me the boarding passes and that said pre-boarding and just kind of slid them to me.
Yeah, so I don't know what was going on there.
But she was
weird.
She was really, really snotty about it. And so then I went back to the seat, gave Erica her boarding pass and, kind of told her what happened. And she argued with me quite a bit. And she was irritated. She was irritated that girl had given me boarding passes. The very, very best part was they called for the pre-board people, so we went to get on with the pre-board, and there were at least 3 wheelchairs there.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of got behind the wheelchairs because we didn't care.
Yeah,
we were
fine.
completely fine with that. And the guy that was at the gate said, "Just a minute." He told all of the pre-board people. He says, "Just a second," and he walked down, talked to the flight attendants on the plane, came back, and he said, we're gonna take the service dogs first. And the snotty girl at the desk, the not so nice girl at the desk, started pushing her wheelchair. She had a wheelchair and she was pushing the wheelchair. And he said, "No, we want the service dogs first." And she was very put out. She was very irritated.
I'm not sure what. I don't know if she's had a bad experience maybe or I don't know. It was very
But we were
strange.
trying to come through and she was trying to cut us off with the wheelchair.
Yeah, poor Tahoe. He's short. He almost got run over by a wheelchair.
So
don't run over my dog because then I'll get mad at you, lady.
Yeah. So we finally got through, and she, like I said, she was very put out, and she made some not very nice noises as we walked by with our dogs trying to get through the wheelchairs.
Which I don't understand.
So we were real, to be honest, like Erica said, and we had never flown Southwest with or without a service dog before. So it was completely new experience, and we were like,
I was like, no,
I'm never flying them again.
I was like, I don't care if it costs more money. I just won't go, or I'm not flying with Southwest
they were
again.
just so snotty about it, and so we got on the plane, and it was like night and day.
Yeah, they were so nice.
And he had gone on the plane to tell them that there were 2 service dogs coming on the plane, and they had saved us the bulkhead.
Yeah.
And there were just there were 2 of us and the 2 dogs, and they left. They said the flight is not completely full, so we are going to leave this reserved for flight attendant sign on one of the seats so that nobody else could sit in that bulkhead with us.
Yeah.
So the flight attendants were amazing.
Yeah, they were very kind.
And they kept coming and checking to see if we needed anything.
Yeah, the dogs needed anything. They were really awesome. So then I was like, okay, I'll fly Southwest again. I'd give another try.
Maybe we can drive to Vegas and fly out of Vegas instead of Salt Lake.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that. Because I definitely would try it again in Salt Lake. Because there's a decent chance that it was just kind of, we caught her on an off day or...
Right.
Who knows. But it was very strange.
Yeah. And the flight attendants made a lot of comments about how well behaved the dogs were and how good they were. And
yeah, because they both were... Nova had flown a bunch, but the puppy, he was totally ready to fly. I would not take a puppy on a plane if I did not think that he was going to be good. 'Cause that is not fun for anybody.
Right. And the very, very funniest part about flying to California, so Nova had done Orlando and Seattle, and then we were flying to San Jose. So it was going to be, her 3rd trip on a plane. And we pull up to the airport, and she is so excited she could hardly stand it.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
laughing so hard. She was going back and forth and crying and wanted to get out of the car, and she was so excited that she was going on another trip.
It was actually pretty cute.
Yeah, it was really, really funny. And Erica had made the comment once. She's like, "Do you think she likes to travel? Do you?" So I turned around in the seat and I said, "Yep, I think she likes to travel, Erica."
I'm always worried that like she's unhappy, or I don't know, that I'm like making her do stuff she doesn't want to do, but she was pretty happy.
So excited.
Yeah. So then the only other thing I think that I wanted to kind of mention briefly about flying, like the only other hiccup maybe that we've had is when you weren't there.
Yeah.
So my little sister and I always say little sister like she's, like 12 or something.
She's not.
I'm 24.
She's behind the camera. She doesn't want to be on right now. But yeah, so
You'll see me in Disney.
Yeah. So we went to Disney together. It was just the two of us, and we were flying home. We were flying Delta, and so we went up. Had they called for pre-boarding yet? Or
Yeah.
I think they called to pre-board. So we went up to pre-board, and I don't like handle confrontation well, like at all. So
And when she says not at all, it's really not at all.
I don't do well.
Yeah.
So we go up to pre-board, and I guess maybe in hindsight we should have like checked beforehand if we could pre-board, but it's never been a problem before. Like I just always gone up.
We have pre-boarded before.
Yeah, it was just fine. So I don't know. I'd been approved for the service dog and stuff, so I think I just assumed that it was fine. So
And you did fine going out of Salt Lake.
Yeah. Yeah. So we go up to pre-board, and the flight attendant, she was like, "Well, do you need flight attendant assistance to get on the plane?" And I was kind of like, "No, I just have the service dog." And she's like, "Well, you only get to pre-board if you require the assistance of a flight attendant." And she was kind of rude about it, and I was just like, "Okay, I guess."
She was
we're not
related
gonna
to the lady that works in Southwest. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was really upset. Then there was like this guy behind us that like he was pre-boarding, and he was pretty rude because he basically just like ran me over. Like it was very strange. So Nicole, my little sister, was with me, and we like moved off to the side, and I was like, "I guess it's gonna be fine. Like we won't pre-board. It'll be fine. It's gonna be fine." And she was like, "We are pre-boarding on that plane." She was like, "We are getting on that plane." So there was, like the flight attendant who was at the, like with the place where you got on the plane, and there was like a flight attendant kind of off to the side a little bit at a desk. And so Nicole went over and she was like, "Hey, I was just wondering, like, my sister has a service dog, so I was wondering when's like the appropriate time for us to pre-board." And she was like, I think she had heard the other lady, because she was like, "You can just like pre-board right now." And so she kind of looked at the other flight attendant. She was like, "They can get on right now." And she was like, "Okay, fine." And then just like let us on.
But then was really nice to us after.
Yeah, it was bizarre. Like I said, I think that kind of those little experiences are just like flukes. I wouldn't assume those are going to happen.
And I think too, like Erica has a friend that has a patch on her service dog's vest that says something like, not all
disabilities are visible.
Yeah, not all disabilities are visible. And that's not a patch that Erica's necessarily wanted, but I
thought about it.
Yeah, but after these experiences, I think, you've thought a little bit harder about doing some of that, because sometimes I think people just automatically assume, like, there's so many people when we have Nova that say, "Oh, are you training her for the blind?"
Yeah.
And it's like, they have no idea the amount of things that service dogs can do. I think most people think you're either training them for the blind or you're training an emotional support animal.
Or just for somebody else, just altogether.
Right. And they just...
Because I look fine.
Yeah, they just don't understand. And I think that's just kind of one of those things where people just need to be a little bit more educated, that don't assume, by looking at somebody and thinking that they are fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess my biggest tip for flying is... know your rights, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Like, I don't know if I would be able to, but you do have a right to pre-board and to do all that stuff. And if you've got all your paperwork in order, they, like you don't deserve to be treated poorly or whatever. So yeah, if you want to pre-board, like you should be allowed to pre-board. It's not a big deal.
Right.
But yeah, I have heard from a couple other people that sometimes the pre-boarding, like if you're going to have an issue with flying, it's not going to be security or like on the plane. It's going to be like they really don't want you to pre-board, which I don't know why.
I don't either, because to me, like you said at the beginning, it makes sense. You want the dog to get on without people, because if somebody injured your dog, that
Yeah.
could be a problem for the airline. So you would think that they would want you to get on with your dog,
Yeah,
you
just
get
get settled.
settled, and then let people come on. And yeah, and most people too, I feel like when we've tried to get off the plane, we kind of try to wait. We let people
Yeah.
kind of,
Yeah.
get off, because it does take us a minute by the time we pull our luggage out of bins. And
Yeah, I kind of adjust Nova.
and
yeah.
when we were in California, we had 2 dogs.
It was hard with
and,
2 dogs.
and we were just doing 2 nights, so we didn't want to check luggage. It was a lot more difficult to try to get on and off of a plane. So, I don't know. And sometimes we're very blessed, because if we're on a long flight, my dad calls our travel agent and upgrades us to first class, because
Yeah.
he's very concerned that Nova doesn't have enough room on a floor.
He's not
four-hour
he's not
flight.
worried about us.
Yeah, he doesn't care
He's
about
worried
us.
about the dog.
Yeah.
The very first time we flew, it was to Orlando, and we live in we go to the Salt Lake Airport. That's the airport that's closest to us, and so it's like what 4.5 hour flight there. 5 hours.
No, it's about 4, just a little over 4.
4-ish hours, yeah. And so we had just, booked the regular seats, and my grandpa was like, I really just think that, I'm going to upgrade you to first class. And we were like, no, the dog will be fine. And he's like, no, I think that Nova needs more space. We're just really worried about
He was
Nova.
very worried about Nova. That she's not going to have any room to move or do anything.
Yeah.
And we were like, no, Dad, it'll be
The
fine.
dog's going to be fine.
And he's like, no, I just think it'll be better if Nova flies first class.
So he did. He bumped us up to first class for the dog.
And then you get to pre-board anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've flown first class with her just the one time?
Yeah, and he did upgrade us to first class for this coming flight again.
He did. Yeah, he did, because he's worried because, it's a longer flight. So
Yeah.
Nova needs more space.
And then when we do fly places, it's actually kind of funny, because when we went to Seattle, I was not sitting with Erica, and she was with her friend, and she was sending me pictures of Nova, and that would say, Nova is a first class dog. What is she doing in coach?
Nova deserves more space.
Yeah.
This is not the manner that Nova is accustomed to.
Yeah.
Erica needs to make a little more money so Nova can fly first class.
Yeah.
That's my first class dog.
Yeah.
Nova, do you like to fly first class?
So it's actually pretty funny, and I don't know if you can find the picture, how hard it is to put it in, but I think you should add the picture. When the very first time we flew and we landed, she wanted to look out that window so bad she could hardly stand it.
Yeah.
And again, we were in first class, so Erica did let her look out the window, and she just was looking to see, where are we? What happened?
What are we doing?
Yeah. So it was
she
actually
travels super well. I'm really glad
Yeah.
that she travels really well.
And we've driven to other states, with her on longer car rides, and she does great. She's a really, really good traveler.
She is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on the flights, never had an issue. There was one time, I think this was with Nicole and I, when we were flying to Orlando, the flight attendant kept giving me those little packs of goldfish. She's like, the dog needs some more goldfish. So she
Yeah.
wanted me to feed the dog goldfish. It was pretty funny.
We have lots of goldfish.
We
that
did have a
year.
lot of goldfish.
Well, and when we went to Orlando the first time, when we were in first class, they came by and kept handing us water bottles,
Yeah.
which was actually nice. So our rule of thumb is always, if they offer you a water bottle, take it, because we're very careful with Nova when we go to another state, that we don't want the water to upset her stomach.
Yeah.
So
Nobody wants diarrhea, like a dog to have diarrhea on a plane.
yeah,
So.
or when you're on your trip or having to deal with
so
all that.
when we travel,
so,
she just drinks bottled water.
yeah, she just drinks bottled water, and so we try to collect all the bottled water we could, so we didn't have to buy it when we were at Disney.
Yeah.
It was much cheaper on the plane when
Yes,
they're handing it to
is.
you for
Yep.
free.
We'll take that bottled water.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so I think that's all I wanted to say.
yeah, I think you got the points. We have had, I think, TSA, going through TSA, I feel like can be different from time to time. there when we went, I think it was it to Seattle when they wanted you to get Nova completely naked and sent her through the metal detector. And then Nova just wants to be friends with everybody, so you had to kind of grab her and have her sit. But I think for the most part, it's just been pretty.
Yeah, which I'm not 100% sure about like what the rules are, but I'm pretty sure that if you're not comfortable getting your dog like totally undressed, I don't think they can make you.
Yeah.
Like I don't think you have to. I think that if they go through and they're like wearing metal and they set off the metal detector, then they just pat them down.
Just kind of the collar area.
Yeah, because like the puppy, when we flew with him, I think they wanted me to get him totally naked, and I was like, it's okay, you can just pat him down.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, is he going to be okay with that? I was like, yeah, he'll be fine. And like, they were fine. So, yeah. And if you want to see what it's like to go through security with a service dog, I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of videos on YouTube. Just type it in and pop up.
Yeah.
In my experience, it really hasn't been too bad. I always get really anxious for it just because it's security and I feel like they're yelling at you and I don't like when people yell at me. So.
Well, when one of the trips, I can't remember if it was Seattle or California, I did get yelled at, but it had nothing to do with the dog. He yelled at me about my iPad, so because I feel like the rules always change with those. You know, sometimes they want you to pull them out and sometimes they don't, and sometimes and then I put it in with my shoes and stuff and he's like, that needs to be in a bin all by itself, and I
don't know.
And I said, oh, is that what you said? And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. He says, that's what I've been saying. And I'm like, oh, I didn't hear you. And but I always just smile and nod.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't argue with the TSA.
No, me either.
Unless I have to. I never have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hope this was helpful for somebody.
One other thing, sorry, but maybe you should mention about TSA is we generally get a bag pulled that has the dog food in it.
I don't know why, but the dog food usually sets it off.
Yeah, and talking to other friends that we have that have service dogs, they have the same thing. We have one friend, she is archaeologist.
Yeah,
she's an archaeologist.
she travels a lot.
She travels a ton, and so she takes her service dog, and she had warned us ahead of time. She's like, if you have dog food in your carry-on, it's gonna get pulled.
Yeah.
So that was kind of nice. We just went prepared, and it has happened. I think every single time it's got pulled.
I don't think it's happened every time, but almost every time.
Yeah. So, and when we came back from California, Erica did get pulled because she had. You watched her first video, that little dog water bottle that she's got, she forgot to empty it.
So that was my own stupidity.
But they were super nice about it. They were going to test it so she could take it because they recognized it as a dog water bottle. And she's like, it's okay, you just dump it.
Yeah, the guy was like, is it just water? And I was like, yeah. He's like, can I just dump it and send it back through? I was like, yeah, that's totally fine. So that's what he did. He just dumped it and sent it back through for me.
So not a big deal.
Mm-mm. No.
So, yeah. I think it's been pretty easy to fly with the dog.
Yeah. I feel like now, when we go to fly, it's going to be a nightmare now. But
yeah. I know, but do you want to talk about how the potty places a little bit in the airport?
Oh, yeah. So the potty places is kind of fun. Like, I personally really love watching the, like, service dog travel vlogs. I don't know. I just think they're fun.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of potty spots, like not personally in person, but I've seen a bunch of them. So in Orlando, I don't know if we've ever actually found one that's inside.
Well, and they're kind of snotty about it in Orlando because I've asked before, and they're like, "Well, outside on the grass." And I'm like, okay, well, there's a pet because in Orlando, you get off the plane and then you have to take, a little monorail system thing to a different terminal, and it's, it takes a while before you can actually get your dog outside, but nobody seems to know where the potty relief is. So if you know where the potty relief area is in the Orlando airport before you get on the monorail, drop us a comment.
Yeah, let us know. I guess we could look on a map, but I think I tried looking on a map one time,
and we couldn't find it.
It was not, I don't know. So when we go in a couple weeks, we'll have to, every time I'm like, I'm going to find it this time.
Yeah.
Like I never had. Like I said, the flight's only like 4 hours. So, she's fine. It's not like it's a huge deal. But
with the puppy, we more, we really wanted to find the potty area.
Yeah. So then we went to San Jose. They had a potty spot in that area, or in that airport, down from the gates. That wasn't a very big airport. Yeah. But it was just like off to the side, but like not in a room. It was kind of strange, I thought.
Yeah.
Which from what I've been watching on YouTube, that's not super uncommon for them to just be like right there.
Yeah.
So the funny thing about it is like, I feel like Salt Lake's airport, they're updating it, like they're renovating it. So like the gates are it's pretty new.
Mm-hmm.
Like less than 2 years, maybe 3.
Yeah, maybe 3.
Like they're still expanding it. So like it's not an old like airport at all.
Right.
Like the new stuff anyways. And their potty spots are so nice.
They're really nice.
Like they're huge. I didn't even realize they were so big either until I started watching those videos and we saw some of the other ones. But yeah, they're so big. Like you walk in and there's like a big area that's not the grass, it's just like the tile floor or whatever. It's got like a really big sink. It's got like a place to, I think, like wash your dog down, and then it's got the fake grass that's like super big. It's got the fire hydrant. I know other people who have gone into like kind of bigger ones like that, and they're like, "Oh, it smells so bad." I've never thought. I mean, it doesn't like. I'm not like, "Oh, I would love to."
It's obvious it's a potty. Yeah, it's obvious.
But yeah, it's really not bad. Like it's never been like super smelly. It's never been dirty.
Yeah.
I think pretty much every time I've gone to the Salt Lake Airport, I've seen at least one person go into one of the dog potty areas to clean it. Like they're very clean and very nice. Yeah. So yeah, if you're in Salt Lake, would highly recommend.
The one in San Jose, when we got off the plane, we really wanted to take the puppy potty because, you have to be at the airport 2 hours early, and then the flight was, like an hour and a half. And,
yeah, and he's like, I ain't peeing on that grass.
Yeah, and so we found it, and it was like a little box, and they put this big fire hydrant in the middle.
Yeah, so
there was like nowhere to really go.
So he was okay, but then Nova, she's a full-grown lab, but I mean, she's not a super big lab, but I don't know if she really could have fit.
Well, she was kind of trying to fit, and she was like looking at us like, "Oh, what is this?
I'm not gonna fit here. What do you want
Nova's
me to pee?
A first-class dog."
Nobody needs big grassy
but
area.
We didn't realize that. So Tahoe's family was picking us up at the airport, and one of them called us, and we didn't realize that the airport was that small. And she's like, "Yeah, just come on outside because."
If I'd known
there's only one little wing, so it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, because it was kind of like the potty spot was like all the way at the other end, where we needed to go. But it was fine. It was kind of interesting to see, I guess.
Yeah, it worked out. And it seems like in Seattle, the potty area was actually outside.
Yeah, I took her to one outside when we got there. I'm sure there was one past security. I don't remember really looking. I don't think and that flight wasn't very long, so I wasn't super worried about it.
Right.
And, I always like, especially if we're doing a morning flight, I always fast my dog, so they're fine.
Yeah, and Tahoe was not happy with that decision.
It was not.
Because he's a really, really chill puppy. And so Erica put him in the kennel because she's trying to, get everything together, just to kind of keep him out of the way while she's gathering. And he barked a couple times in his kennel, and he doesn't ever do that unless he needs to go potty.
It's like, somebody needs to feed me.
And so my daughter Nicole, that we've kind of been talking about, she's like, Mom, Tahoe's barking in the kennel. Should I take him potty? I said, I think he's mad he's not getting breakfast.
But I think she did end up taking him potty, and he did not go.
He did not go.
But he went inside and stood by his food bowl like, Erica forgot to feed me.
Yeah. So he was not a fan.
He was not.
I think that was kind of the end of our experiences.
Yeah, I feel like we talked for a really long time, so hopefully it wasn't boring.
Hopefully we're somewhat entertaining.
Yeah. Hey, and I hope somebody found that helpful. I know before I flew for the first time, or probably even like the second or third time, I got super nervous. Just didn't know what was going to happen. Felt like I didn't know what to expect, but I still do get nervous, but not as bad as the first few times. So,
and I would just add, the one thing that Nova's trainer, breeder, always says, and that is trust your dog.
Yep.
And if you trust your dog,
trust your dog and trust your training. If you feel like if you're working with a trainer, if you feel like you and your trainer feel like your dog's ready to fly, then they're ready to fly, and you can totally do it.
Yeah.
And you got this. So, hope that was not super boring and long-winded, and that was helpful. I feel like I've said a million times now, so we're really going to go now. So, thanks for watching. Bye.